Let's see if the third... Let's see if the third time is a charm, shall we? Oh dear. Well guys, the one huge difference that I made today is that Mason Solo Player, hi, how you doing? Keith Holmesley, Cobra. Alright. Well, I'm not having luck with these live streams. Yes, Sean, that's a Cobra Rattler. And I don't know what is going on. Wake up, Tony. Yeah, I'm awake. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Oh man. I'm trying to get a live stream that just does not freeze up the picture. And I thought the issue was the internet feed. So I've hardwired the internet rather than use Wi-Fi, and it still seems to be an issue. Yeah, the chat's working, Kale. It's all good. Hey Tony, who are your favourite Cobra characters? Firefly and Cobra Commander. Fox Morgan, you're very, very welcome. He's saying that things are hectic in his town, all the rioting and stuff, so... yeah. Apologies, guys. I just want to try and bring you a live stream in HD, and no matter how many times I try, it just keeps messing up on me. I'm getting very, very frustrated with it now. I don't seem to understand what the problem is. I've upgraded my OS so I can go to a newer version of the OBS streaming software. I've hardwired the internet into my laptop. I had to run cable and an adapter to be able to do that. But there we go. Kyle Matthews says, any Cobra figures you're hunting down at the moment? Well, he's not technically a Cobra, but I would like to add Swamp Skier to my collection. Sean Bailey says the stream's working fine here, no glitch at all. That's good to know. I wonder... Celestial Toymaker says, hey Tony, the problems might not be with you. An Aussie Vape review I watched has been having the same choppy video issue on his streams the last 2 nights. Oh, okay. Broken Wolf 668 says they really screwed up Firefly in the live action movie. They screwed up everything in the live action movies. King Eric the Great the First says the lag is only occasional, not bad. Alright, well I suppose that's a bit better. Kuma Chan, might be too many people online. I don't think it matters how many people are online. It's something to do with my streaming capability. And it's the dropped frame rate that I'm having an issue with, I think. So let's have a quick look here. Oh well, we're here now. Let's talk about Cobra. Says you can send a swamp ski for free. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. Kale Matthew says Zartan teamed up with Cobra as much as he can, practically can as one at a time. Yeah, I consider Zartan a member of Cobra. Jumpin' Jim Flash, how you doing? Cal says at least Firefly got to look remotely like his old self in those movies. Yeah, and I've got Firefly right here. He's one of my favourites, and he's in great condition. I've got the original card back for this guy as well, not just the file card, the full card back. It's very nice. Roger Miller says, "What's up, mate? Go Joe. That's good to know." The movie series about the mass device was my favourite. The cartoon series, you mean, about the mass device? Yes. It's one of my favourites too. 2 Cent Toys says, my first Cobra Commander was the Hall of Fame one. He quickly lost his hood. Well, my first Cobra Commander was this guy right here. The mail-away Cobra Commander. I've got a real soft spot for him. I never had, when I was a child, I didn't have the chrome face version, which is why this Sideshow Collectibles Cobra Commander I've got right here, he comes with both heads, both the hooded head and the chrome face helmet head. Because my first Cobra Commander was the hooded one, that's the way I like to prefer to display this guy. If everyone's on lockdown watching Netflix, etc., throttling internet, yeah, maybe. The Rattler was my favourite as a kid. Yeah, I really, really wanted the Rattler when I was a kid. Unfortunately, I never got one. And this fine specimen here has been beautifully restored by a viewer of the channel, Joseph, and was kindly donated to me late last year, I believe. And then I got a stand from Kevin Clark. Kevin Clark sent me a beautiful acrylic stand for it, and that's how I display it upstairs. Jake Burgess says, ooh, he's got his phone. Are you talking about Firefly? Yeah, I was very, very pleased when I picked this up. He was in really good condition. eBay Australia purchase, all his accessories, and the original card back. I think the flag point may be cut out from the card back, but the majority of the artwork is there, which is the main thing for me. Excuse me, my phone's buzzing. I will respond to that message after the live stream. Alright guys, tell me how the picture's going. I think maybe I might have had too many windows open. From what I'm seeing in the YouTube studio at the moment, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, everything's looking okay at last. Maybe I have sussed it out. Maybe I shouldn't get so frustrated immediately. Okay. Let's stop talking bitrate and stuff like that, and let's talk Cobra. Kale says, for me, I usually turn the Wi-Fi off and on again for a few minutes. It slows down for me. Yeah, I'm not on Wi-Fi now. I've run a LAN cable in here, or an Ethernet cable, whatever you call it, directly from the modem, so I'm not on Wi-Fi, and it seems to be working a bit better. 2 Cent Toys agrees. He prefers the hooded version. Seeing his eyes through the eye holes make him more intimidating to me. Yeah. I also, there was always something attractive to me about getting a mail-away figure as well. I got this as a mail-away, and it just made it feel special having to save up. They weren't called flag points in the UK. They were called star points for Action Force International's heroes. And I saved up all my star points and I sent away for my free Cobra Commander. Fox Morgan says, do you have a Cobra that you army build? Well, I've got 2 Snow Serpents here because I really like them. I would love to get more Snow Serpents. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Wow. I would love to get more Snow Serpents. I love these. I think it's just the abundance of accessories. You've got the snowshoes, you've got the AK-47 rifle, you've got the blue parachute pack around the waist, you've got the big backpack, and then the, I think it's an anti-tank missile launcher with a removable bipod as well. I can't think of any other G.I. Joe figure from that particular era that came with so many accessories. Another one I'm very, very fond of at the front here is the Cobra Eel. I'm not army building them as such, but if they turn up at a reasonable price, I will purchase them. This one's in really, really good condition. And on this, with the oxygen mask at the front with the two hoses, I don't know how well you can see that. I always display mine with the oxygen hoses unplugged, because I remember the one I had as a kid, when it was plugged into the backpack and they bent around, they snapped off at the joint near the mouthpiece. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. Jumping Jim Flash says he just found his original Snake Eyes straight arm ammo pouch. What a lucky find, complete again. Yeah, that is very lucky. Which are from your collection as a kid? None of these are my originals. But are you asking which ones I had when I was a kid? I didn't have Firefly when I was a kid, or Baroness, but I did have Destro, Televiper, the Eel, Cobra Commander. I had the Snow Serpent. I had the Cobra Trooper. I had the Stinger and the Stinger Driver. I'm trying to think what other Cobras I had. I had the Crimson Guard, which I don't have now. I'd love to get a Crimson Guard figure. King Eric the Great the First says, there's something wrong, Tony. The stream is working. Hallelujah! We have success. Yeah, it looks to be working. Ethernet cable was that's what it was. We got there in the end. All right, now we can start having some fun. What time is it for you guys? I doubt there's any UK viewers on right now, because it must be about 4:30 in the morning. Probably 5:30 in the morning in Europe, where Jody is. But I know in the States, I think the East Coast, it's 11:30 p.m. For those of you in like Central America and on the West Coast, I don't know, not quite so late, maybe 9:30 in the evening or something. Knights of Old says, Analog Toys, what's your favourite Cobra vehicle and figure package art? My favourite Cobra vehicle, hands down, is the Cobra Stinger, for a couple of reasons. I had it as a kid, and it was my favourite small Jeep vehicle. I never had a Vamp. I wasn't even aware of the Vamp. I didn't have the Action Force SAS Panther, which is this is a matte black. That's a gloss black version of the Vamp. I was aware of that, but did not have that. I loved this toy when I was a kid, but what's made it extra special for me is that my wife gifted me this one on my 40th birthday with the original box. And I don't know who can tell me what language that is on there, and is that German or Dutch, or I think it's German. I think this is a German version of the Cobra Stinger box. So when you're talking about box art, that's my favourite vehicle. I don't know if that's my favourite art, but I think my favourite box art for a figure card. Oh, tough choice. I'm probably going to have to go with the Cobra Eel. I think the card art for the Cobra Eel is fantastic. Let's catch up on some comments. Sean Bailey, 4:30 a.m. in the morning here in Ireland. Is the stream starting to freeze up again? To me, it looked like it was, but I don't know. King Eric the Great the First, can you see the box again? Yeah, Keith Holmesley says it's in Swahili. I don't think so. So there's the back. Obviously, the flag points have been cut out. But there's the artwork on the box. I love this. This and the All Striker, when I was a child, had many a duel, many a battle. Sean Bailey says the Rattler is the best G.I. Joe vehicle. It's up there, man. It's up there. It is one of the best. I'm very partial to the Tomahawk. I'm quite partial to the Killer Whale. Yeah. Knights of Old, Analog Toys. I like the ATV vehicle art because one of the only is Storm Shadow. Is that on the ATV? I don't remember what that box art looks like. I'll have to look it up afterwards. David McVitie says, what was the name of the World War I Action Man outfit you would have wanted? Probably the Australian Light Horse from Gallipoli. Robert Chattel says, hello Tony, just finished watching your He-Man. Was that the He-Man live stream, I think? Thank you for watching. If you missed it, if you missed the live stream. Sean Bailey says, did anyone here mail in their proof of purchase to become a G.I. Joe member? I mailed in the action points to become a member of the Action Force Club. RC says, a question for Analog Toys. Do you know what the people at Palatoy thought of the stuff Shirley made for the Action Man market? What was the relationship between the two, if any? Cobra Trooper was the best, by the way. I do like the Cobra Trooper. No, there wasn't any relationship, but I've never asked that question. I don't know what they thought of Shirley making sort of knockoff vehicles for Action Man. I don't know. Fox Morgan says the Cobra Commander in the corner. What is that? Hot Toys. Is the hood plastic? This is Sideshow, not Hot Toys. Let me see if I can pick him up and show you. I've actually done a full video on this. You can check it out on the channel page. There you go. Comes with multiple heads, or two different alternate heads. That's what I'm looking for. Robert Chattel, yeah, the live stream, yeah, which was, I'm getting really confused now. Yesterday morning. So this live stream, I'm not going to delete this afterwards. I did a very drunk live stream last night trying to fix the internet issues, and it didn't work, so I deleted it. I tried another one this morning with a bit of Action Force Z4 stuff, and that didn't work, so I deleted it. And then as soon as the local shops were open, I went down and I bought a 10-meter internet cable so I could run my laptop straight to the modem, and it seems to be working better. Knights of Old says, how the hell is your background so white behind you? Special effect? No, it's actually to do with the camera. So I've got studio lighting in here, which I use for my normal videos. This is actually an extremely pale blue paint on the wall, but I don't particularly like this camera, this HD webcam, because it overexposes everything. I do have plans in the future to run the live streams through my Sony 4K camera so that it looks more like my normal videos, you know, my feature videos. However, there's a special, they call it a video, I need a video capture card, which I have purchased but don't have yet. I only purchased it yesterday, so it's in the mail. Did the same guy who did... Keith Holmes is asking, did the same guy who did Cobra Commander's voice also do the voice for Starscream in Transformers? I am not the right guy to ask, Keith. I am not a cartoon buff. I am a toy buff. And a lot of these cartoons I didn't really watch in the 80s. G.I. Joe was not aired on TV. There were Some of the cartoons were made for Action Force and available on VHS, but I never got to see them. I didn't particularly like Transformers. Mask was a cartoon I watched. Masters of the Universe I watched. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Dungeons and Dragons. Certainly not a cartoon aficionado. I don't rewatch cartoons now as an adult. But if anyone else in the chat knows, if you can answer Keith's question, did the same voice actor do the voice for Cobra Commander in G.I. Joe and for Starscream in Transformers? I know a lot of the voice actors would take on multiple voice roles and in different cartoons as well, so wouldn't be surprised, Keith. DS Modeler says the video looks great, no delay. That's very reassuring. Knights of Old says Analog Toys, have you had to replace many O-rings? Pretty much all of them, man. Actually, there was this guy here. I'm going to replace his O-ring straight after the live stream, and I'm actually probably going to strip him down and give him a scrub. This guy's a little bit dirty, but he's loose. So his legs just flop around, so I O-ring. Yeah, most of them I've replaced the O-ring. Venkman says, Venkman, great to see you in the chat. I didn't realise that. I actually thought you probably didn't watch my channel. I always see you pop up on Retroblasting. Never normally see you pop up on mine, but I spoke to Venkman earlier, and it turns out that he's often working when I do my live streams. So I might move my live streams to a Sunday, maybe after Retroblasting's finished. So Retroblasting, when they do their live stream, it's very, very early in the morning. It's like from 2 a.m. to about 4 a.m. for me. It's too early for me to get up. But maybe you guys can have a 2-hour live stream with Retroblasting, then have, say, an hour's break, and then jump onto a live stream with me. I tend to normally only go for an hour. It's hard to go for 2 hours with just one person. On Retroblasting, obviously, you've got Michael and Melinda, and they can pick up the slack when one of them gets up and walks away and everybody drinks. So Jumpin' Jim Flash says the voice actor is Chris Collins. So there you go. That's the voice actor who did both Starscream and Cobra Commander. Doesn't surprise me. The voices are similar. Do you do anything to tighten up the leg joints? Are you talking about the knee joints? Yes, I do. If the knee joints are excessively loose, I will strip the figure down. Whenever I clean G.I. Joes, I always completely strip them down because I don't want to get the screws rusty. So I completely strip them down. And if you've got either loose, you can't do much about the elbow because it's riveted, or the bicep. But the shoulder, the neck, and the knee joints, you can actually wrap a small little bit of PTFE tape around it, and that will tighten up the joint. There's a great video on Toy Ploy that shows you how to do that. PTFE tape is like a thread tape that plumbers use when they screw plumbing fittings together. They wrap that white tape around so it stops water leaks. And just a little bit of PTFE around there will just thicken up the peg in the knee joint, and it'll make it tight again. Knights of Old says Analog Toys, no Zartan, Blood, or Storm Shadow. Explain. I don't have version 1 Storm Shadow. I used to have a nice carded one, but I sold that when I needed some funds to make another purchase. Zartan is at the top of my wants list. It was one of my favourite Cobras when I was a child. I remember I got it for my birthday when I was in England. My birthday's 30th of June, middle of summer, and right before the school holidays. And I remember spending most of the school holidays in the backyard making Zartan and his swamp ski change colour. But Major Blood is on the table. He is piloting the Asp. The Cobra Asp. Oh, he's got some sticky tack on there. I don't know why. And there's Major Blood, so I do have Major Blood. Speaking of that PTFE, I might have to use that PTFE tape to tighten up these guns on the Asp. do a little bit of resto this afternoon. Sean Bailey says Major Blood is hard to find. Yeah, I do. I have his backpack and his weapon as well. I actually think he's in the ASP because I put him in there for some video shot that I was doing and I just haven't got round to ever taking him out. Yes, I have Major Blood. Dave McVitie says, if there was an Action Force cartoon when you were a kid, would you have seen it? Yeah, I would have watched every single episode. Absolutely. There was an Action Force cartoon. Didn't really come out until, I think, just prior to me moving to Australia in 1988. Possibly before, I wasn't aware of it, but it was not aired on television. It was available on VHS. Show Destro's briefcase if you have it. Very cool accessory. Yes, I do have Destro's briefcase. I don't know how well you're going to see that. I don't know if the camera can focus on that very well. But yeah, it is very cool. It folds open and laid inside. He's got knives, pistols, grenades, and a disassembled Armalite rifle molded into it. As though he, because he's an arms dealer, of course he's going to have stuff there. Gaz says he loves the blue shirts, but the Viper is my favourite. Yeah, I started getting out of G.I. Joe around the year when the Viper came out. I've got 2 here. But of that year, this was one of the best figures from that particular year. I do like the Viper. I like the weapon. I like the overall look. I like the sculpting. This is just a 10 out of 10 action figure, G.I. Joe action figure for me. The Cobra Viper. So I've got 2. One of them, unfortunately, the end of the barrel of his rifle snapped off, but the other one's in perfect condition. Keith Holmesley says, who is the driver of the HISS tank? I have a HISS tank driver. I don't remember if he had a name or whether he was just called the HISS tank driver. I don't know. But when it comes to Action Force, that particular figure, when they re-released the Hyena, which is the red recolour of the HISS tank, when they re-released it in 1985 in the Action Force line, he actually came with that particular HISS tank driver. Sean Bailey says he's been looking for Major Blood for 3 years now. I don't know how long I've had him for. Really cool. And you know, it wasn't until because I never had this guy when I was a kid, wasn't until I got him that I actually realised that his right arm is completely solid with no elbow joint. I know they sort of moulded his arm differently, but I just still think they could have articulated the elbow on that one. Knights of Old says, Analog Toys, what real-life version of Cobra G.I. Joe vehicles and or weapons did you use in the military? I was a foot soldier, so I didn't really work with vehicles very much. Although, having said that, I suppose the Tomahawk, it's not a Chinook, but I did spend some time flying around in Chinooks. That's probably the closest vehicle for me. Certainly never went on a hovercraft anywhere, that's for sure. Anthony Whitehead says, hello Tony, great shirt. Thank you very much, man. I do like this shirt, yeah. Cal Matthew Commodore says, can Lego fix that Viper weapon? I'm not too concerned about fixing that because I've got a good one. I'm not too worried about having one of them broken. One of them will turn up one day. Fox Morgan says, do you have any problem with putting foot in foot peg, figure stand and the heel of the figure breaking? Any tips on preventing or adapting, altering figure stand? No, the main thing, Fox Morgan, is to buy the right type of figure stand. There is some cheap figure stands that you can buy, and the reason that Major Blood had some sticky tack on his boot is because I've actually, and this, it's a real shame because this guy was in great condition before. I purchased a number of stands, I think out of China, G.I. Joe stands, that turned up, and one of the first figures I was trying to fit a stand to was this guy, and it broke the heel off. I've still got the piece of broken heel in with his backpack and pistol or his laser pistol in a container, so I do plan to glue that back on. But yeah, do your research. I can't tell you off the top of my head what the correct stands are, but do your research and yeah, buy some good quality stands specifically designed for Joes. You'll see a lot of deals on eBay where you can get stands cheaper for maybe 20 or 50 in a big bunch. Don't go and buy those because they're oversized and they break the heels off the figures. It's a real shame. Ryan says, Tony, cheers from the States. Found your channel and started following through Michael and Retroblasting. Have enjoying a lot. Keep up the great good work. Thank you very much. Yeah, we me and Michael and the Retroblasting team are very good friends. It's always a pleasure. I'm doing a number of collaborations and we have more planned for the future, so stay tuned. DS Modeler says, Tony, do you have any interest in any more 12-inch Cobra figures? Only one. Of the range of Sideshow figures, I've never really wanted to get into collecting Sideshow because they're a very expensive collectible, and so are vintage toys, and I need to pick my battles. You know, I don't have unlimited income. I've actually got very limited income to buy toys. So I tend to stick to vintage. But if there is one Sideshow collectibles figure I would love to get, that would be the 12-inch Firefly, because I think that figure looks incredible. But I probably should have bought it when it first came out, because now they've just shot up in price. The last one I looked at was about $150 dearer than when they were first released a number of years ago. Knights of Old says, Analog Toys, favourite story arcs issues from the Joe Comics, Action Force comics. Well, I never really read the Joe Comics. I read Action Force Weekly, but my favourite story arc is in Action Force. It was called, there was a number of issues. One was called Who is Snake Eyes and Who is Storm Shadow. Basically where you follow Snake Eyes and Tommy, Storm Shadow, and Stalker through Vietnam and then post-Vietnam. I just love that whole storyline. What is your favourite Action Force repaint from the G.I. Joe line, says Dave McVitie. Ooh, I'm assuming you're talking figure, not vehicle. If it's vehicle, my favourite repaint is easily the Z-Force ATC. That's probably my second favourite vehicle behind the Robo-Skull, which isn't a repaint, uniquely British Palitoy product. But if you're talking figure, my favourite repaint would most likely be... That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm probably going to go with Quarrel, the UK recolour of Scarlet. Justin says, hey Tony, I love the channel and I love that you're so passionate about vintage toys. I'm 17 and now I want a bunch of toys that are older than I am. I don't blame you, Justin, because I was fortunate enough to grow up in the golden age of toys. The late 60s, the 70s, the 80s were the best time for toys. I don't know if I'm biased because they're the ones I grew up with, but I don't think the 90s was too bad for toys. But certainly these days, you know, the aughts were not a great time for toys, in my opinion. Venkman says, I briefly collected the Sideshow Collectibles James Bond toys. I eventually sold them all to go towards a replacement G1 Megatron. Okay. Knights of Old, the Zartan ninjas and Ripcord story arc was so great, but I think Zartan's not a ninja, just good with a bow. Yeah, Zartan is not a ninja if you ask me. Certainly not a ninja. What does everyone think of this carded Crimson Guard Commander 2-pack I've got here? What are your thoughts on that? This is an original box, original figures, but when I got it, the figures had been removed from the bubble, and what I actually did was purchased a couple of bubbles. You know, you get the replacement bubbles for recarding Star Wars figures. I got a couple of bubbles for the figures, and then to put the middle, I needed a smaller bubble, so I purchased a replacement bubble for a Jawa card back. But I had these guys when I was a kid. Spent a long time trying to recard this particular set, and I'm very happy with the way it turned out. Cliffy K says, I always loved the twins. Yeah, I wasn't particularly a fan of the characters or even the figures. It was just the fact that it was the only 2-pack that you could get that I can remember anyway. I can't think of any other G.I. Joe that came in a 2-pack. William McKinney says, we need official 12-inch Classic Joes again. I started collecting repros so I can play with them without spending bunches. Also love the channel Action Man G.I. Joe respect. Thank you very much, William. Appreciate that. Fox Morgan says, Sideshow are nice but so expensive. For the price, I can expand my other collections. You're right, Tony. Going down a rabbit hole with them. Yeah, much like, I think, collecting Lego. You know, Lego is... I think if you're collecting Lego, be it modern or vintage, there is just so much product out there that you couldn't collect anything else. You know, I'm obviously Action Man's my main thing, but I am trying to be quite diverse with my collection. So G.I. Joe, Action Force, Rambo, Master of the Universe, Star Wars, all this stuff. It's possible. Dave McVitie says, is there a toy line that you want to collect but don't have any of it yet? Yes, and that's Kenner's mask. I'd love to start collecting masks. I was actually looking around if there's anything available in Australia on eBay, but nothing that piqued my interest. Nate P513 says, I just tuned in, so sorry if it's a repeat question. I know you have a soft spot for vintage, but how do you feel about the new 6-inch G.I. Joe Classifieds? I did a whole video with my thoughts on the 6-inch G.I. Joe Classified series. I was really, really looking forward to 6-inch G.I. Joes, and I was really disappointed when I first saw them because I can't. I think the exclusive Snake Eyes is good, and I've asked a friend in the States to pre-order for me, but what was I saying? Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't give them realistic weapons. I don't like the aesthetic of the uniform. It's too futuristic. Why does Roadblock not have Marduce? Why does he not have a 50 caliber machine gun instead of a pair of electric tongs? You know, Knights of Old says Analog Toys filed card code name. I've always used the code name Dusk Fox, which you can actually see, I think, written on this little avatar thing up here, because when I joined the Action Force Members Club when I was a kid, you used to get a code name in that. There were other names around like Fire Links and things like that. Mine was Dusk Fox, so it's kind of always stuck. Griffy K says codename Collector, yeah. I like the twins, but not their gimmick about reading each other's minds. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the twins. Never have been. but I did have the figures when I was a kid. And the reason I purchased this, as I said, I've recarded it, but it was an original box. Was because it just turned up on eBay Australia at a good price and very local, where I didn't have to pay for shipping. I just went around and picked it up. So there you go. Keith Holmesley, I'm looking for you for some real Ghostbusters original. Thanks very much, Keith. Yeah, I've only got Peter Venkman at the moment. I'm actually when I got that Peter Venkman, I got really excited. I saw it on eBay because it was in really nice condition with an unbroken proton stream and backpack clip and all that. And it was a good price, and I picked it up. And then it was after I'd purchased it, and it had arrived in the post. It was a couple of weeks later. I then realised, it didn't actually have the little ghost with it. And I was looking around on eBay yesterday. There's a guy in Australia at the moment trying to sell an Ecto 1, the 4 original figures, and a few of the figures that came in later lines, selling the whole lot for $350. And at first I was like, that's it's not cheap, but it's pretty good for what it is. 350 Australian is probably about 200 US. But then on a closer inspection, most of the proton streams are broken. On the arm pieces are broken on the backpacks. Lots of paintwear on the figures. The Ecto is incomplete. I think the guy's crazy asking that price. You're going to spend that sort of money, you want to get complete stuff. Jumping Jim Flash says, when did G.I. Joe jump the shark for you? For me, I can't remember the exact year, but it was when we started to get things like Crystal Ball, Big Boa, Raptor. It had jumped the shark for me. But even G.I. Joe the movie, I think for me, is when they jumped the shark. Cobra La and all that bollocks, I didn't like. Really didn't like. SMCW, if there's one thing you could change about the line, what would it be, Tony? It would be that they did not deviate from their military roots and start to go colourful and neon and futuristic. They should have stuck with their military roots, I think, and made more grounded vehicles as the line went along. That's most of my collection. I don't have a huge collection of G.I. Joe, but what I do have focuses on the I don't have any of the early 82 stuff because I didn't have that when I was a kid anyway. But sort of 80, 84, 85 are my sort of favourite year. Jesse, he says he's new here. Good to see you, Jesse. Sorry if I pronounced this wrong. Malachi. Anyway. Facts, I agree with you, Tony. The new G.I. Joe figures didn't impress me. I expected more. Only Snake Eyes looks good. Yeah, 100%. Nate says, your 1/6 scale Cobra Commander is sweet. Have you seen the 1/6 Mondo, He-Man and Skeletor? Those things are beautiful. Hope it won't be a pain to track them down. No, I haven't seen those 1/6 scale Mondo, He-Man and Skeletor. I'll have to check them out. I'm not familiar with those. Not Today Devil Shindo Wraith XR says, what is your most wanted figure that you don't have? Ooh. Possibly Zartan. I would really like to get a Crimson Guard. Yeah, one of those two, I think. Knights of Old. What's your favourite figures? Mine is probably Series 3, 1984, but it's... yeah, I would agree. I think 1984, if that's the year that we got characters like Flint and Snake Eyes version 2 in 1984. David McVitie, if you were to army build an Action Force figure other than the SAS squad leader, who would it be? Who would it be? Probably the Z4 Sapper, I think. I think I've already got 2 or 3, so I guess I'm already army building. The Z4 Sapper. The movies always ruin the cartoon. Even the actor who played Duke in the movie said he hated doing it. Yeah. A lot of people saying they weren't fans of Cobra. That was weird. I agree. Anthony Whitehead, I agree. I only collect from 1982 until 1986. My favourite, yeah. 1984, 1985, I think still okay as well. Jesse says, how do you feel about Marauders Task Force toys? I'm not familiar with them. Sorry. Okay, so 1985 I think would be my year. Someone here is telling me that 84 was the year Recondo came out. Yeah, so it'd be 1985 I think for me. Bazooka, Dusty, Shipwreck. Just because that's the ones that I grew up with. You know, when G.I. Joe was brought to the UK in 87 and became Action Force International Heroes, what we were getting in 1987 was what you guys in the States were getting in 1985. SMCW, when can we expect the next part of the Action Force episode? I was actually going to film it this weekend, and then I found out last week that George Aitken is sending me another box of stuff. I've got everything I need to cover the Q-Force episode, and I'm close to having everything I need for the Z-Force one. So I was going to cover Q-Force. I have everything I need, but George has sent me some extra bits, and because that guy has been so kind to this channel, I decided that I would wait until his parcel arrived. So I'm going to be writing the script very soon, and so as soon as his parcel arrives, I'll get filming. Sean Bailey says he can't stop staring at the Rattler. I would like to pick... let's get it out. I have to be very careful here because if I wobble this, it can fall off the stand fairly easily. There we go. There's the Cobra Rattler in its full glory. I'm worried I'm going to drop it, so it's not staying there for too long. Jumping Jim Flash says, how many USSS flags have you owned? I've never owned one. I've never played with one when I was a kid. I was aware of it. Never even really got the opportunity to inspect one as an adult collector. So Fox Morgan says, that stand is sick. Where did you get the stand? The stand was purchased and sent to me by a fan of the channel named Kevin Clark. And I believe he purchased it on eBay. I think if you just go on eBay and search G.I. Joe acrylic display stand, a whole different number of them come up available for purchase. You can get all sorts of different stands. I really want to get one for the Tomahawk so I can display the Tomahawk. Jesse says the Marauders Task Toys is a small company that you can make your custom G.I. Joe figures, and they currently focus on World War II figures. Yes, Jesse, I am aware of it. There was a video that Michael did at Retroblasting where he had basically pieced together the characters from the TV series Combat. I think they're looking incredible. Michael certainly spoke very, very highly of them. I've never seen them in person. They do look really cool. I love the idea that you can just pick and choose what accessories you want, purchase all the individual bits, and then build your figure with no leftover parts that you don't want. Jumping Jim Flash, no, I don't have a tea mug. I at least put on a Cobra shirt for the live stream. I'm constantly buying T-shirts with different pop culture properties displayed on them for live streams and feature videos. I'm not going to go to the extent of buying coffee mugs as well. Anthony Whitehead, he agrees with Fox Morgan. Some figures are good, but it's slim. I'm not going to. Philip says, your thoughts on the big play sets like the Flag, Defiant, Rolling Thunder, are they too big? I'm not a fan of the Defiant. It was past my era, and G.I. Joe was a military force. I don't. They didn't need to go into space, if you ask me. Rolling Thunder was past my time, but there is something about the Flag, like it is an oversized toy coffee table. I don't think I would have. I certainly wouldn't have had any room. I wouldn't have had anywhere to put it when I was a child. Not that my parents could afford to buy. But now, as an adult collector, I would like to get I would love to get a Flag as a centerpiece to my collection room. That would be fantastic, and that mainly because I've got a Tomahawk that stays in the box because I have no room to display it. I've got a Sky Striker that stays in the box because I've got no room to display it, and a Flag would give me an area to display this stuff, so that would be great. David McVitie's asking if there's any Action Man outfit that I don't have yet. Yeah, there's a few outfits that I don't have, but nothing that I'm really interested in going out and acquiring. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of much. So I've only got 2 footballers. I've got like the basic footballer as he came out of the box, and I've got the Arsenal football kit. I've got no interest in getting all the other football kits. What other ones are there? The number 3 Dress Marine from the ceremonials is one that I don't have but would like to get. But I have the majority of Action Man outfits. SMCW, are you going to collect the new 6-inch G.I. Joe line? If so, or not, why? I would like to get the exclusive additional weapon stand. I don't want to collect the others because I just don't like them. I don't like the look of them. I think Scarlet is terrible. Destro doesn't look too bad, but I don't want to. I don't collect modern stuff, I am going to make an exception for Snake Eyes, though. Philip, vehicles that you think are underrated. For me, it's the Devilfish. I have the Devilfish upstairs. Vehicles that are underrated. Vehicles that are underrated. I don't know. The Cobra Fang, I think, is quite underrated. I don't have one. It's quite a small, simple toy. It's quite fragile. It's hard to get complete today. But yeah, I think the Cobra Fang is really cool. So, Jumping Jim Flash says, "How is the push-up challenge going?" The push-up challenge is going well. I only got one day left to go. So, and I was able to raise $600 for mental health awareness. So I'm very pleased with that result. David McVitie, have you ever tried making a stop motion with some of your toys in your collection? Not really. A little bit of really basic stuff. I'm not going to get into stop motion. It is incredibly time consuming, and just not what I do. I make more sort of documentary stuff. I'm more interested in the history of how toys are developed, and the whole history behind their inception, how they were received to the to the public when they were released, all that kind of thing. I'm not really into doing stop motion stuff. Not that I'm against it. It's just not my creative sensibilities. Kind of don't go that direction. At Analog Toys, I want the gliders, but they are super expensive here in the USA. Yeah, they are. Yes, they are. TK421 says, I'm spoiling you all with this great content, Tony. Enjoying this with my morning quest from the UK. You're very well. Man, you're up early for the UK, I think, is it? Yeah, you're up early. Bob B says, do you prefer the Red Shadows over Cobra? No, I think I prefer Cobra. Yeah. There are just so many cooler figures, like the original Cobra Trooper, the Snow Serpent, the Eel. I loved them. Philip says, do you routinely purchase carded figures? The twins there look in great condition. On and off. I used to be a collector who collected sort of 70-80% loose, 20-30% carded. Because in my display I like to have carded examples of stuff at the back. I do particularly like toy packaging. But certainly over the last few years that I've run Analog Toys, the nature of creating video content and purchasing toys for certain videos has really steered me, it's changed my collecting sensibilities, where I pretty much always buy loose now, because there's only so much you can show carded wise in a video, whereas these guys here, I can't show you the articulation, I can't pose them, I can't put them in a vehicle, but I can do that with all of the loose characters at the front. So if there was one celebrity in the line, not counting the Fridge or Slaughter, who would you want? I don't think G.I. Joe should have had celebrities in the line. I don't think it should have introduced Sergeant Slaughter or the Fridge. I know there was rumours that Rocky was going to come into the line, but didn't. I don't think they should have done it. So that's my answer for that. Knights of Old, Analog Toys. What are some cool vintage Australian-only toys? I can't think of any off the top of my head, because if there was ever really a toy manufacturing company in Australia back in the retro era, Toll Toys simply repackaged foreign product. So yeah. As a matter of fact, I wonder if I can show you guys this. I don't know what I've done with it now. No, I can't show you. I don't know. I had a photo somewhere, but I don't remember where it is. Gaz says Dutch from Predator would be a cool addition to G.I. Joe. Yeah, he possibly would be. I think the whole Predator team was really inspired by G.I. Joe to somewhat. Did you ever go to the building where Palatoy was built? Yes, I've been to the old Palatoy factory. I've been to the old design department. Chicken Fried Steak says, hello from Central California, everyone. Hello, mate. How you going? William McKinney says, Analog Toys, what is your least favourite G.I. Joe figure? Oh, that's a tough one, because there's a number of G.I. Joes that I don't like. I don't like Sci-Fi. I don't like Psy-Count. Is it Psy-Count? Yeah, I don't like him. When you get into the 90s, like most of that stuff I didn't like. Yeah. Knights of Old, Analog Toys, did you collect military Britain's detail army men? Yes, and I still have a number. I did a video on the history of W Britain. It was quite a broad video, sort of about the history of the company, but I showed a number of Britain's detail figures in there that I have now. I've got a lot of the World War II Germans, I've got the World War II British guys, and a number of others. Jumping Jim Flash says, look up Bill Merklin, G.I. Joe interview on YouTube. He sculpted many classic Joes and talks a great deal about the process. Okay, cool. Well, I'll have a look at that. Sean Bailey says, Bazooka is awful. I don't hate Bazooka that much. Certainly not, you know... a Bazooka soldier would never wear a bright red shirt into combat, I'll tell you that. But he's not as bad as like Sci-Fi and Psych Out and things like that. Philip's got a good question. He says, which do you prefer, Tiger Force or Night Force or Python Patrol? I wasn't really aware of Night Force when I was a kid. Tiger Force was around when I was kind of out of G.I. Joe, but like still looking at toys in toy stores. I'm probably going to go with Night Force. I think Night Force has a better aesthetic. Tiger Force is just quite loud. Tiger Force is an assault on the senses that's not needed. What G.I. Joe toy took forever to find that you finally got? Oh, there's a lot of G.I. Joe stuff I'm still trying to get. I don't know. Let me think about it. I'll come back to you. Brandon Hill says, love the channel. Thanks for all your hard work. What was your first G.I. Joe figure? My first G.I. Joe figure was Barbecue. I remember going into a toy shop, seeing them all for the first time, but had never having read a comic or anything. I didn't know a lot about the characters. And even though this shop had like Snake Eyes version 2 in it and Flint, and I couldn't decide, and for some reason I chose Barbecue, and that was my first ever G.I. Joe figure. I loved the sculpting on that figure. Man of Action says... sorry, no. Knights of Old. You guys are all talking to each other and I can't keep up with the chat. Bob B says, would you like to see the entire Predator team turned into 3 3/4 inch action figures? No, I'd like to see the Predator team and a Predator in a 6-inch range. That if they did that and did it well, I think we've had toys of like Dutch and stuff from NECA, but they've never done the full team that I'm aware of. I could be wrong. That's something I would like to. I would collect a modern version of that. You know, all the guys from the team plus the first version Predator. I think that would be pretty cool. DSN 1014. What's the toy collecting scene like in Australia? With your proximity, are there more Japanese imports accessible, or is it mostly a Western supply chain similar to the UK? You seem to be talking about modern toys, which I just don't keep up with modern toys and collectibles and stuff like that. So can't give you a very educated answer to that question. Philip says, are you skilled like Toy Polloi in fixing damaged items? I think I'm reasonably good at restorations. I'm certainly not at the level of Toy Polloi. And I've learned a lot from that guy. I really started getting into restoring toys with Action Man. And because Action Man is a 12-inch figure that has different uniforms, I got pretty decent at... repairing clothing and fabric and things like that, as well as accessories. So I'm certainly not at the level of Toy Polloi, and I would never claim to be as good, because that guy's a legend. But yeah, but I do pretty good at restoring stuff. Although these days I don't get restoration projects. I used to do that a bit when I was younger. These days I tend to buy the toys in nice condition in the first place rather than restore them. Knights of Old at Analog Toys. I love the Africa Corps Britons, World War II Africa Germans. As a kid, for some reason, maybe because they look like something from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Do you have those? No, I don't, but I'm very, very familiar with the German, the Britain's Detail Africa Corps. That is, if I was going to buy some more Britain's Details, they would probably be top of my list. Man of Action says HYYA Toys, they have all of the Predators. They have all of the Predators, but do they have all of the characters from the team from the first movie? You know, Blaine, Hawkins, Dutch. I don't remember all the names off the top of my head. Poncho, Billy, Mac. That's what I want. I want to get the set of them with the centerpiece being, you know, the slightly taller alien Predator figure. Anthony Whitehead says, Tony, your ATAT repair video is the best. Wow, man, that's an old video. I haven't done that for... I'm trying to think when that's probably 2-3 years old now, that video. So, thanks for saying that. Man of Action says, Tony, what's your thoughts on the new G.I. Joe Larry Hama comic books? Do you like them? I cannot give you an opinion. I haven't read them, but I have heard really, really good things, and I'm a huge fan of Larry Hama's writing. So, but yeah, I don't collect the modern comic books. William McKinney, do you think early Action Force figures would be better with expanded articulation found in later figures? Yeah, the figures would have been better with greater articulation, but they are a product of the time. If Palitoy had have taken the time to get the figures more articulated, we would not have received them in 1982. You know, it would have taken much, much longer to develop. They would have been more expensive. The range probably would have been a lot smaller because of the tooling involved to make these articulated figures. So they are what they are, and I love them just for their visual aesthetic. Similar in the way that I don't begrudge Kenner Star Wars for having less articulation than G.I. Joe. You know, I think Kenner Star Wars figures are beautiful, much like I think of Action Force. I do believe that G.I. Joe is probably the best 3 3/4 inch action figure line. The best figure design that's ever been around for that particular scale, but I don't begrudge other toy lines for their limited scale. Not limited scale, limited articulation in that scale. David Mavidi, is ROM the Action Man or Parker Brothers ROM? Like my one? They're exactly the same. There's no difference with the actual figure. It just depends what box it came out of, and I got this one loose. So, Philip Guru says, thoughts on the straight arm versus the swivel from the 82 to 83 line. I think the swivel arm was a marked improvement, but once again, Hasbro were figuring this out as they went. I mean, that wasn't the only improvement they made to the figures. The early figures, even after they introduced swivel arm barrel grip, which they heavily advertised, the figures' heads only turned left and right. And then later, which they didn't advertise, and I think they should have done, they put the head on more of a ball joint so it could tilt forward and backwards as well as turn. I think that was another great advantage to these figures, where the neck articulation improved, and no one ever seems to really talk about that. It made sense for them to continue improving the articulation of the figures. And I don't begrudge straight arm or anything like that, because again, they were a product of the times, and you know, Hasbro did a great job with what they could at the time, and then they continued to improve upon that, and I commend them for it. They were a much better company back then than they are today. Jesse says, I wonder what the Action Force version of the USS Flag would have looked like. Yeah, so do I. I like to think, I don't think we would have had an aircraft carrier being British. Actually, I would have liked to have seen a more British-styled naval battleship for Action Force, maybe. Bob B says, would you like to see toys from the Schwarzenegger film Commando? Not really. There were toys back in the day, and they were damn awful toys. Terrible toys. I remember seeing them at Toys R Us in Cardiff in Wales, which I was in there looking for Rambo stuff. And it was in the aisle next to Rambo, and it was just paled in comparison. Just an awful, awful set of toys. Anthony Whitehead, thank you very, very much for the super chat, my man. For you to find a Cobra Thang, thanks for all your work in this community. I enjoy the videos. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much, Matt. I really, really appreciate that. I will have to look out for a Fang. I do have the Palatoy SAS recolor of the Fang, which is super cool. You know, it's got yellow accents instead of red, and it's yeah, like the Panther was a recolored version of basically the Stinger or the Vamp, and then the SAS one-man helicopter, which was called Hawk. It's funny that, because Hawk was the name of a character in G.I. Joe. Version 1 Snake Eyes got renamed to Stalker. Then we got Stalker with the headquarters, and they called him Jammer. The names all over the place. Fox Morgan, do you collect the Ultimate Soldier XD Extreme Detail 3/4 inch? No, I don't collect modern stuff. Tetsuo Wraith, I don't know how you pronounce that. I think if they had swivel wrists in the 80s, we'd have fewer broken thumbs. Yeah, possibly, but I think when you overdo articulation as well, it can tend to make the figures more fragile. I actually think in articulating wrist, we may have less broken thumbs, but we'd probably have a lot more broken wrists. Tony, do you find the toy makers of today have lost touch with kids in what is a good toy? Yeah, I think so, but I think there's another real factor at play here, and that is that today's kids are more interested in electronics than they are action figures or anything like that. You know, from young ages, they want iPads to play with, you know. So it's kind of twofold. It's kind of forced the toy market to, you know, be aimed more at adults these days. There are a few good toy lines around. I think Imagine X is a really good toy line. But yeah, the popularity of action figures, like the way it was popular in our day, I don't think if any company brought out traditional styled action figures like we had as a kid, be it G.I. Joe or Masters of the Universe, or if they brought back Action Man, the company would go bust because it just wouldn't sell. Have you seen the G.I. Joe Zombie Force toys? No, I haven't seen those. Jumping Jim Flash says, what kind of toy line would you design, Tony? I don't know if I would design a toy line. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what sort of toy line I would design. I wouldn't. Ryan says East Coast US signing off. Good night. Thank you, Ryan. I am going to wrap this up pretty soon. How long have we been streaming for? Wow, over an hour. That flew by. I thought I'd been here 30 minutes. I better wrap up because I need to go and make my son some lunch, and it's 12:30 here. So, okay. David McVitie says, if the Action Man Wolf Pack was released, would you have bought it? Possibly. I don't know. I'm not sure as I would have liked the line, you know. Having seen the prototypes and what was available at Toy Fair, I don't know if that would have been for me. So, Jesse says, how do you feel if Hasbro got the rights for Action Force? They probably own the rights for Action Force now. I believe that, you know, they eventually... Hasbro did not purchase Palitoy immediately. I think Palitoy went to Tonka and then it went to Kenner-Parker, but was then eventually acquired by Hasbro, along with all the IP. So Hasbro owns Action Man, which means that they must own Action Force. Fox Morgan says, thank you, Tony, for all you do in the toy collecting community. Good night. Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm going to wrap up the stream there. I'm glad that it worked better than last time. So thank you all for watching. And the wife's phoning me. I need to answer that. So, all right, guys. I will...